Hey guys, Travis Ebro coming at you. Wanted to talk about the three lessons we learned from building an AI tool. And I got to say, we did it before it was cool. It seems everyone and their dog has a post on AI and how it impacts everything. And so we were one of the cool kids. We did this early on. But nonetheless, our intent on building this was to use a large language model to be able to produce blog content and then get those blogs to rank and in turn monetize off the ads. So it was a side project that was a bit of a passion play to see how this might work or not work. It had been proven on the internet by a few different folks, so it wasn't like I was new to this. It just was an interesting project to me. So we started building that in about August of 2022. It off and on, back and forth. It took us about 3 or 4 months, but overall build time was probably about 40 to 60 hours between the amount of time that it took us to suss out product requirements and really what we were looking for. So the end result ended up being a Postman front end that, which is an off-the-shelf software. Well, it's a cloud-based software that you can find that will then hit APIs. And the API in particular that we used was OpenAI, famously known as ChatGPT, that everyone has talked about ad nauseum, it feels like. And so the way we had the interface set up was we would create the article, then get the article, and we would pump it directly into the site via this WordPress integration. So we ended up ditching this project in 2023, but not before we learned some pretty interesting lessons. And that's why I made this video, to help you guys hopefully get a nugget or two of what we learned. The first thing is that I would say building an AI wrapper is actually fairly easy. It's not a drag and drop kind of easy type of deal, but it is something you can spool up relatively quickly. And I say AI product, I mean one with an AI wrapper that calls on an existing large language model. So I will say that even though it is easy, it still becomes what I would say is a yellow flag for an enterprise product. And the reason I say that is that at any point, the pricing model may change, and in turn, it will bring down promising startups. I like this graphic, this meme that shows, hey, this is what happened whenever Twitter raised its API prices. These promising startups that were doing a decent chunk of money just absolutely drowned, and the enterprise clients were like, hey, I'll pick up the work that these guys were doing. And so at any point in time, OpenAI may decide to drastically raise their prices and force out the middle and lower end players in the market. So not saying they're going to do that, but whenever you are looking at an AI software, think about whether it uses an AI wrapper or if it's its own large language model. This is the first time that we actually built software without a front end. So myself, I'm not a big fan of no code, low code. That might be stubborn on my part to not step into the 21st century, but nonetheless, I like when things are built from scratch. It affords you unlimited flexibility inside that code base. So we've always built apps from the ground up. We've always had a front end. We've always had a back end. But what was kind of cool with this Postman GitHub that we put together is it was easy enough for someone to jump in here and to create an article, type it out, hit our the OpenAI API, and just produce an article. No coding language required. In fact, it was a 5-minute walkthrough video we delivered to an admin. So we produced over 30 WordPress articles, which could have been a lot higher. These articles took anywhere from like 8 to 15 minutes to produce. And even though this interface isn't pretty, it isn't modern, it does work for particular scenarios. So I definitely will consider that with other projects that I pursue in the future, is to not build that whole front end until we really understand the use case and make sure it makes a lot of sense. So the other thing that I will say is Google's already slid its weighting scale more toward backlinks and content. And I'm not talking indefinite terms like, oh, backlinks are better than content. It's always nuanced. There's always depends on the search query, and Google's algorithm has tons of inputs to it. But what I have seen anecdotally is that content used to carry the day completely, meaning how does that match to the keyword phrase? And I will say, with the advent of these AI tools and the ability to generate content that exactly matches that keyword, there is definitely a bit more of a focus toward backlink building. So those are the three things I learned during this process. If anyone else has built something, I'd love to hear more about what you're working on. You can drop me a line at Travis at Momento Tech, and we can nerd out together. Thanks so much for listening.